From Viking halls to the cities of the future, terrain buffs will love our foreground hub. Watch gaming tables of all genres come to life at beastsofwar.com. Anime cyberpunk style meets skirmish combat in Infinity. Experience 8 high-tech factions and fight to control the human sphere at the Infinity Hub on beastsofwar.com.
Hi everybody, welcome to What's in the Box. As you can see, we have a Sherman V in front of us, John.
Mm-hmm.
Is it time for tanks?
It is time for tanks. Yes, and now everyone is expecting me to do the big thumbs up and shout, we're unboxing
A
tanks.
tank.
We're unboxing a tank. Now, some people will remember that we did the Platoon box
Yes.
a while ago, and in a vlog more recently I said, well, you know, since we got this in individually, it was time for more tank gibberish.
Yes.
So thank you, Sam, for
All right, well,
that.
you start with your tank gibberish, and I'll get this out of the box for us.
All right, so you all know, well, hopefully you all know the basic Sherman story developed in Story of the Sherman. Wow, that was a real fluffle I just did there.
Did you try to English?
I tried to English too hard. I tried to tank gibberish too hard and it turned into English.
Ah, right. Right.
So the basic Sherman story developed in 1942, you know, all put together, all these big car manufacturers, Chrysler, Ford, General Motors and all that, all were given the contract to build these things. And each of them built their own separate version. So the likes of Ford built the M4A3. They had a hand in the M4A1 as well, I think. General Motors did the one that had it was the M4A2, I think, had the twin Detroit diesel engines in it.
Yeah, so basically it was a ubiquitous hull, but everything inside was a bit of a Frankenstein, yeah?
The only part that was really different was the engine.
Right.
Each of these motor companies built their own engine.
Now, is there any specific reason they would actually do that? Because that just seems insane to me. If you're out in the field and you need to borrow spare parts from the next regiment over, and theirs have been built by Ford and yours have been built by Chrysler, you're kind of done in.
Well, you are and you aren't. Generally, a tank division, which was the biggest formation they put them in the American Army and the European theatre in general.
Right.
Every division would have had a particular type. It would have been a particular manufacturer that would have supplied them.
Okay.
So let's just move on and say this one is the Chrysler built one.
Okay, so you know this for a fact, yeah?
Yes. All Sherman 5s, aka M4A4, were all built by Chrysler.
Okay. Now, because it's called a Sherman V, does that denote that it's British?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's something important, because the British, when they got these things, they did rename them slightly, didn't they?
Well, they named them Sherman.
All right, so it's us that called it Sherman.
It's Winston Churchill that gave it the name Sherman.
Right.
Because, and again, it's a funky little story. When the Americans came into the war and started supplying stuff, they were shipping over tanks that were called the medium M2, the light M3, the medium this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And it was always an M after it.
Aye.
Now the British have been fighting Rommel in the desert for a couple of years now, or a year and a half or whatever. But all their tanks were Mark III, Mark IV, Mark II, all this.
Aye.
And Churchill, not being the biggest petrol head in the world, he was a naval man at heart.
Aye.
Thanks to Gallipoli. And messing that up. Little poke at Churchill. He just wasn't mechanically minded.
Right.
So he decided that the War Department had to name all the Lend-Lease vehicles that were coming in from the States.
Right.
They had to be named, and Churchill wanted them to be named after American Civil War generals.
Okay.
So you had the General Grant, which was the M3.
Right.
You had the General Sherman. You had the General Stuart, and so on and so forth.
Did we have a General Lee?
Yeah. But,
Okay.
but it was the American version of the M3 medium tank that was called the Lee.
Okay, but we did have a General Lee in there.
There was a General Lee.
Don't do any jumps.
No. They weren't very good at it. So, yeah, we came up with the name Sherman.
Okay.
And then I have no idea why. Churchill then thought, well, the whole M4 da-da-da thing is also going to go away, and we're going to bring in our own designations.
Right.
So General Sherman became Sherman 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on.
Okay.
VC and everything.
Okay. Right, well, let's take a quick look at the box before we get too deeply into this. So on the front, you've obviously got lovely bit of artwork.
Yep.
But on the back, you're seeing some of the paint schemes you can do with this. Now, I'm seeing 2 tones of olive drab here.
Yes.
Is this correct?
Probably.
Probably.
I'd say the darker tone is the more British green.
Right. Well, they both have the Allied star on them, so that doesn't denote American.
Anything in particular, no.
It just denotes it's an Allied piece of equipment, yeah?
Yeah.
From the West, I guess it would be.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, like it's a nice kit. It is one of those tanks that you have to have on the battlefield if you're playing British or American.
Yeah, if you're doing World War II and you are playing with one of the Western Allies and you don't have a Sherman, there's something wrong. You're playing a weird army. You're playing an infantry army or some crazy thing like that. You don't want to do that.
No, you don't want that. All right. Well, let's get stuck straight into the sprues.
Sure.
We get 3 in the box, and it's pretty straightforward.
It is.
So,
yeah.
Under the close camera, you can see you've got your lower hull with all your access panels, your escape hatch, and stuff like that. You've got your 2 sides for your track, and you've got your bogies for the actual suspension of the vehicle.
Yep.
So this goes together, what, 2 minutes?
Yeah, pretty much. It's nice. It's good. It's good heavy plastic as well. It doesn't bend very easy. It doesn't, but it cuts really nice if you're wanting to do any sort of damage or anything like that. It cuts nice, but it doesn't bend very easily.
So you won't get any warpage.
No,
which is nice. Which is, I don't know why. I've played around with Airfix in the past. Yeah, I know. Scale modeling.
I shall put my sassy scale modeler face on and go, you play with Airfix.
No, I've played around with a couple of different types, but I always find that whatever sort of plastic they use, if you have a big long join to do, you know, on like an aircraft or something, it's never done, but it's warped.
Yeah.
And it really annoys me. It's one of the things that put me off it. This, however, is a really solid piece of kit. So next up, we have upper hull. Is this where it denotes that it's actually a Chrysler, or would the rear engine deck have changed much between variants?
There's a couple of things that denote it. The one major thing that if you're ever looking at a Sherman is this bubble here, this raised piece. This is the armored housing for the top of the radiator for the Chrysler engine.
Okay.
And that denotes that this is a M4A4.
Right.
It has that engine in it.
Right. We've got the front transmission. We've got these, which I have no idea what they are.
They are for the front of the transmission. They're the bolt section heads.
If I flip it over, we've got our commander's cupola.
Yep.
We then have an armor plate to go on somewhere.
That goes on the back of a stowage box that goes on the back of the bustle of the turret.
Okay. We have the 2 front drive sprockets. We have what I can only assume, I think, this is the rear of the lower hull.
Yep.
After that, we have the 2 halves of the commander's hatch. We have driver and radio operator's hatch.
Yep.
We have the shell ejection port.
Yep.
We then have top of the turret and bottom of the turret. Is there anything on this here that denotes it as a Chrysler made?
No.
So it's just standard kit?
Standard kit, yeah.
Yeah. You've got a stowage bin, gun mantlet.
Well, gun mount.
Gun mount, and then gun mantlet is here. And I'm assuming this one mounts the small 75?
Yep, this is the standard 75 Sherman, yeah.
And then, of course, you have the little bow machine gun and the little coax machine gun as well. And these 2 little plates here, what are these, John?
They are applique armor plates that go on the front of the driver and assistant driver hatches. So if you go back to the upper hull,
so to the upper hull,
they'll sit in front of these 2 blisters here.
I see.
At an angle. We can show that later. So
yeah, sure thing. So that's the top of our tank. We're then on to the extras sprue, as I would call it. So you've got your side skirts to go on up here if you want to put them on. I assume those are just optional, yeah?
Yeah, they're optional. It'd be the first thing to break off as well if you drove through a hedge with one.
We've got 2 options for our commander here. In fact, I'll get a little closer. So nice to see some plastic crew in this.
Yep.
We've got a couple of spare wheels for the bogies.
Yep.
We've got a jerry can. We've got the ever popular Collins hedgerow cutter.
Yes.
We've got a 50 cal for the top. We've got ammo box for it.
Yep.
This little thing here, I have no idea what this is.
That's the twin handle for the back of the 50 cal.
I see. We then have 2 more stowage boxes. Is there any difference in these?
Yes, the one with the little 3 squares on it is actually for the back of Firefly.
Okay.
Which isn't included in this kit.
Yep.
The other box is the standard stowage box.
Okay. We've then got some spare track if you want to do some additional armor.
Yep.
We've got these. Are these exhausts?
They're fire extinguishers.
Oh, I see. We've then got all your different towing eyes and towing hooks. Spare ammo box.
That little box. Let me have a look at that little box.
That little box?
Yes. I'm going to be incredibly tank gibberish here and tell you that's the first aid kit for the back of the hull.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Smart Alec, what's this little bit here?
That's the searchlight for the top of the turret.
Okay, just so you know what it is, I'm on about here. It's this tiny little component here.
It's either that or it's the siren.
Right.
It's the little siren for the front, probably.
Okay, so that is all the components. In the game, John, I'm expecting you're going to want to try and get at least 2 of these on the ground if you're facing German armor.
Yeah, well, if you're for the most part, your Shermans are going to suck up a lot of infantry, but not a lot of armor hits. Anything with a decent anti-tank rating is just going to go straight through these things.
So what? Panzer IV is definitely going to shred it.
Anything from essentially Panzer III up is really in with a good shot.
Yeah, I'd say even my Puma could take a fair slap at it.
Yeah, that little 50mm on it is pretty
quite deadly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's quite snippy, it really puts it at an advantage against Shermans. But
Yep.
overall, Shermans, they're a great thing to have, and they're something that it feels like a World War II army when you have a Sherman in it.
Yeah,
you know?
and it feels like a solid tank as well, and especially when you put this kit together and the plastic is so solid, it feels solid. You know, a lot of people complain that some plastic kits just feel too light and flimsy. No, these don't.
Okay, so this feels like a good lump. If you lose, wing it at your opponent's head, you might do some damage.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, well, I'll tell you what, guys. I'm going to send John away to get this built, so we'll be back in a second. Okay, we're back, and John has the Sherman built. How did the actual build go on this, John?
A lot easier than I was expecting.
Really?
Well, maybe not as much as I was expecting, just easier than some of the other kits.
Right.
And in particular the American Sherman. I think it was a bit more fidgety in places, but this worked really well.
All right, well, let's get it under the close camera, because it does look really nice whenever it's built. And I think overall, it's just a beautiful little thing. I like the fact that you stuck the Collins hydro cutter in.
Yep.
Could the drive wheels actually, or not drive wheels, the spare wheels actually sit there on the front?
Yeah, they would just be tied down wherever you could fit them.
Okay.
For the most part.
Okay. Well, I mean, like overall, it's really well put together.
Yeah.
All the details really stand out. I see where you've stuck your first aid kit on.
Where it should be.
Smart arse. Jerry can as well. Now, here's a question for you: were they always called jerry cans?
Yes, because that shape of fuel can, that particular shape with the the top that hooks in on itself.
Yes.
That's a jerry can because that's what the ones the Germans made.
Right.
And then we stole them, and then we took the idea and started making our own. The Americans had a very similar looking thing, but it had a big dopey screw top on it.
Right.
Which was prone to leaking.
Really?
A lot. They were terrible.
So I hit a bump and just splash, lost half the tank.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. So you're saying this is better than the American kit. Do we have one sitting?
Yes, but I'm not going to compare them as model kits.
Okay.
I'm going to compare them as actual tanks because there'll be a few people that'll be like, what's the difference? A Sherman's a Sherman's a Sherman. Like, ha ha! No, it's not.
And suddenly John pulls out his anorak.
Yep, get the strings good and tight.
From nowhere.
Yep.
Okay, so let's bring them both in here.
Okay.
Okay, so at the front we have our Sherman V.
Yep.
And what would this be designated?
This would be M4A1.
Okay, and if it was the British variant, what would that be designated?
It would be Sherman 1.
Sherman 1. Okay.
Basically, yeah.
So what differences are we seeing here?
Well, for a start off, the Sherman 5, if you line her up properly.
Yeah, well, there's your tracks lined up.
Yep, so when you line them up, the hull is longer in the Sherman 5.
Yeah, if I turn this around to the side, you'll probably see it a little better.
Yep, so line the... I always line the top of the hulls up.
Okay.
That's
yeah, so you've got more on the back end.
Yep.
You've got a completely different design for the actual side skirts of it here.
Well, they were all built with those. Like they all came with a set of these skirts on the side, these sort of like dust channels or whatever you call them.
Okay.
But for the most part, they didn't use them.
Okay, fair enough. I'm seeing a bit of a difference here in the actual commander's cupola, and this one's a little taller. Now, is that down to the sculpting, or is this actually in the vehicle design? In fact, let me get a little closer. I'll let you see
this is what you're looking at, because the Sherman V kit is an in-house Warlord kit.
Yeah.
It's designed to be a wargaming model.
Yes.
This is the American Sherman kit for bolt action.
Yeah.
This is made by Italeri.
Right.
So what you're looking at here is Italeri is a scale model company.
Okay.
And Warlord is a wargaming miniatures company. So the difference you're seeing in proportion and whatnot, for the most part, is down to the difference between the two companies' approach to making something.
Okay, now one important question. You see here, this bit of extra plate.
Yes.
Why was that added? Or no, it's on here as well.
It's on that one too.
Less defined.
Yeah. Well, that's there to protect the gunner.
Oh, so it's just a bit of extra armor for him.
It's another 1.5 inch plate or something that was welded onto the turrets.
Is that not just like putting a big bullseye on it saying, important person here, shoot here?
Yeah, important thing here. You want to aim for that.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's the same on the sides. I remember you telling me you've actually seen in history these armor plates here, they were actually over, what was it, fuel stowage?
Well, on that side of the vehicle, it's ammo stowage.
Yeah, and on the other?
And on the other, well, it's ammo stowage there as well, to be honest.
Yeah. So I remember you telling me that you actually saw a picture where a German had just aimed at the White Star and just put 2 through the middle of it.
Yeah, just put 2 holes through the middle of the White Star, which happened to be over one of those armor plates.
Yeah.
Hitting the ammo rack of the vehicle.
Yeah, well, it's kind of why they were called Tommy Cookers, because with the ammo stored there and having those armor plates there, it's basically, again, bullseye. Important thing here.
Yeah. A lot of people will say that the Sherman was inferior in its design. It really wasn't. The only thing that really let it down was the ammo stowage, and the only problem that the ammo stowage had was that it was unprotected.
Aye.
Even in Tiger, they had the ammo was separated off by a smaller bulkhead, and you open a little door, and then you could pull the shells out into the compartment.
Did that not make it even more awkward to actually lay your hands on it?
Yeah, but then if it caught fire, you've got a bit more of warning. You can look down and you can hear and feel the hit, and you can look down and see the smoke billow out of the rack and go, right, everybody out. Yeah,
but it would get you, what, an extra 2-3 seconds?
There's 2-3 seconds where you're getting out of the tank.
I don't know, I think you'd be screwed anyway.
And the tank isn't blowing up.
Okay, fair enough.
The problem with Sherman stowage is that because it's in open rack and there's nothing between you and it, if the ammo rack takes a hit, say a solid shot comes through the side of the vehicle, not only is that igniting the propellant, but that is now scattering shells that weigh, I'd say they're about 12 kilos.
And it is now shredding brass casing as well.
It's now throwing that amount of stuff into the crew compartment. So it is breaking the shells up, it's throwing the cordite around, it's throwing the projectiles around, and they're going to start bouncing around and doing damage too.
Yeah, and if you have a high axe that maybe goes off as well, that's even worse.
You're doomed. Pretty much.
So, a cooker.
Yeah. But back to the actual
kits.
But back to the kits, yeah. So what you're saying is the main difference between the M4A1, which is running a 9-cylinder radial. It's either a 6-cylinder or a 9-cylinder radial engine, against the Chrysler, which is running a 30-cylinder multi-bank engine.
Yeah. Now, one of the things I'm seeing that's adding more to the length of this vehicle than anything else is this one extra stowage box on the back.
Yeah.
The actual hull itself is a smidge longer.
It should be 6 inches.
Well, to scale, yeah.
Yeah. Scale-wise, it's about 6 inches longer.
Now, I have to wonder, out of the two, John, which would you prefer to work on?
5.
This?
Yes.
Okay. And is that the kit or the actual vehicle in-game?
Both, because, I mean, the 5 essentially has the same stats as any other Sherman in the game anyway. It's still the same tank.
Yeah.
I just like the look of it better.
And that's the key point.
Yes.
You know, whenever it comes to your Shermans and your forces, I mean, like, you can play some of the earlier ones as long as the stats work out the same.
Yeah.
But it's an aesthetic choice then that I prefer the look of the M1.
Yeah. Or the A1.
A1, sorry.
Yeah. But, I think also don't forget that when you're playing an earlier war game, your crews aren't going to be as experienced, I don't think,
Very
either.
True. Very true.
Because the Sherman was newer, and they had no idea what they were doing at the time. Especially the US, they were still figuring cavalry was the way the tank force should go. Whereas in Britain, we were like, yeah, we had about 12 trains of thought on that, and we derailed most of them by 1944. So.
You see, this is the thing. Whenever tanks first came into the war, they were such a change that no one knew what to do with them.
Except the Germans.
But you see, here's the thing. Was it such a radical idea, Blitzkrieg?
Yep.
Really? It was just completely out of the box?
Well, it wasn't entirely. Do you want me to go into this now?
Yeah, just for a couple of minutes. I'm giving him 2 minutes on this, so enjoy.
Wait, no, never mind. I'm gonna go for it anyway. So Blitzkrieg basically came from, I'd say, Britain, America, France, and Russia. The ideas came from all those different countries. They all had their own little theories, but they weren't quite complete. What Germany did was they took what the French called the bee swarm tactic, which was lots of small, fast, light tanks.
Yeah.
And took that idea and went, right, let's put that into the Panzer Force. Then they looked at Britain, and Britain was more, we have light tanks, cruiser tanks, heavy tank sort of idea, infantry tanks.
So this is where we saw the idea of Tiger being, the heavy battle tank, Panzer IV being the medium battle tank, and then having your tank destroyers mixed in as well. Yeah,
so you had that more sort of combined Panzer arm, but that still wasn't all of the thoughts. And then they went to America, and America was all about speed and all about fast maneuver, and they went, right, I like the sound of that too, so we'll incorporate those ideas. Then they went to Russia, and Russia was essentially build a lot, make it fast, make it durable, but it doesn't need to last as very long. So they built disposable tanks, essentially, the BT series and the early T-26s.
Yeah.
And But the Russians also had a big heavy tank project.
Yeah.
So they had the T-28s that were the big medium tanks and all that sort of stuff. And Germany took that as well, rolled it in with the British idea of having different types of tank. And then all Germany did to that was go, right, we make mobile artillery to support the tank. We make mobile infantry to support the tank. We make mobile air, like good air support, ground attack air support to support the tank. Everything was about the tank force moving forward.
Then where did it go wrong?
It went wrong
because it seems that eventually they throw away the idea of disposable tanks and start building these over-engineered monstrosities, which are, yes, incredibly good on the battlefield once you get them there, but it's getting them there, it's maintaining them while they're there, and it's producing more to cover your losses. You know, that idea seemed to fall away somewhere.
There's a couple of trains of thought to that. There's Ferdinand Porsche, who any tank historian will know was the nutty professor of the German Panzer Arm. He came up with the Panzer, the Tiger P, which was a hybrid tank, which used hybrid technology before we were even considering putting it into modern cars.
So hang on. The Tiger P was an electric tank.
It had 2 petrol engines
that
ran 2 electric generators that ran 2 electric motors. This was hybrid technology. They also had a hydrostatic drive.
Okay, what's a hydrostatic drive?
A hydrostat drive was basically a similar idea to an electric motor, except it was a hydraulic system.
Okay.
Now, Ferdy Porsche, Mr. Porsche, as we all love to call him, Mr. Porsche or Dr. Porsche, had put one into a Panzer IV as a prototype and had displayed it around, and I'm pretty sure it duly broke down and spat oil everywhere. Like the Tiger P, it duly drove out of the garage and caught fire, so...
Even though it may have been the superior design, if I remember correctly.
In my opinion, yes. It lacked a couple of things like crew hatches for the driver and assistant driver.
Really?
They had to get in through the turret. And that was something a lot of the tank designers looked at and went, so if it catches fire, which it apparently just has, it seems like those 2 fellows in the front can't really get out that easily. All
right, well, I'll tell you what, let's throw that one out to the community. Honestly, John, I'm going to agree with you. I like the Sherman V, but here's the question for the comments, guys. What would you rather have, the Tiger P or the Tiger 1 that went into service? Drop your comments below. We'll see you in the next video.
Flames of War brings you the battles of World War II in epic 15mm scale. Go to the hub on beastsofwar.com to find news, tactics, and tutorials about the game. Become a general of mighty armies at the Kings of War Hub. Take command of elves, dwarves, and orcs in this game of massed fantasy combat on beastsofwar.com.